What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? My name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we are going over 5 trade targets for week 5 of the 2022 fantasy football season. If you guys do enjoy today's content, be sure to hit that like button on the way in. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We put out free daily fantasy football content. It really does help when you guys consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Feel free to drop any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to the 2022 fantasy football season down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Without further ado, let's hop into today's video. All right, first on the list, I've got Devonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's a pretty good overall trade target, being that he's sitting at wide receiver number 31 overall, and I just feel like a lot of fantasy managers who own Devonta Smith have dealt with a lot of inconsistency. Week 1, 0 points. Week 2, 15. Week 3, 30.9. Week 4, 4.7. So a lot of boomer bust potential so far on the season for Devonta Smith. He gets Arizona in week 5, Dallas in week 6, then a bye week, then a nice stretch for this high-powered Eagles offense. Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington, Indianapolis. I really like that stretch. Green Bay is not the best overall matchup, but it's a good game script. And he gets Tennessee, the Giants, and Chicago before facing Dallas again in week 16. I just feel like we want pieces of this Philadelphia Eagles offense on our fantasy rosters. I think Smith is a really strong flex option. Give me a lot of Mike Williams-esque vibes from last season. He might give you 4 points one week. He might give you 20 to 30 points the next week. And like I said, I just like this Eagles offense. So far on the season, 266 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, 23.2 points per game. And like I said, I just feel like a lot of fantasy managers who own Devonta Smith wouldn't mind necessarily moving on from him, coming off of a low scoring game overall at 4.7 points against Jacksonville. So I feel like this is a prime time to go ahead and go out and get Devonta Smith before it's potentially too late. All right, DeAndre Swift comes in as RB number 20 overall. He's not expected to play on Sunday against New England, and I really feel like there are fantasy managers out there who own DeAndre Swift, who after Swift missed week 4 and had just 7.6 points in week 3, they are okay with moving on from DeAndre Swift because they don't like that inconsistency and they are worried about the potential injuries to Swift throughout the season, keeping him out. But the beauty here is if you can go out and trade for Swift and just keep him on your bench and then flex him when he's healthy, that gives you all the upside in the world at the flex position. Even with missing week 4 and only having 7.6 fantasy points in week 3, he still has 16.9 points per game on the season so far. We all know what Swift is capable of. So go out in your league, go fishing, right? Go find out, does the owner of Swift in your league have confidence in Swift moving forward? You might be able to put together a pretty good package to acquire Swift and hopefully make him a flex player for you moving forward on the season. Jamar Chase comes in as wide receiver number 13 overall. He has so far had 15.8 points per game on the season. There's a lot of negative buzz right now in the fantasy community around Jamar Chase, so I just feel like it's a good time to go out and get him. And I really, overall, right, there are fantasy managers just talking about T. Higgins is the guy, right? Well, Higgins comes in as your wide receiver number 14 overall, so Chase is in front of him, but I've seen a lot of trades coming from you guys where Chase has become available, and a lot of you guys who are wanting to trade away Jamar Chase, and I lean on the side of going out and getting Chase and buying him low right now, because I think as the season continues to go on, there is no way whatsoever Chase is not incredibly involved within this offense. At the end of the day, he is the number 1 option for the Bengals offense, and he is Joe Burrow's number 1 thought when he is reading through his progressions. That chemistry that they have since their college days is not going anywhere. And guys, I love T. Higgins. I love Tyler Boyd. I love this receiving core overall. And I think Higgins is still going to have a very good season. I understand why fantasy managers are bullish on Higgins, but I just think this is a prime point in the season to go out and get Chase before it's too late at the end of the day. All right, Zach Ertz is quietly coming in as your tight end number 4 overall. 13.5 fantasy points per game so far on the season, 181 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns so far. He's had double-digit fantasy points in every game this year in full PPR scoring formats. And a lot of teams that I've seen you guys send me, owners of Zach Ertz, have picked up Gerald Everett. They picked up Tyler Higbee, right? They're rostering 2 tight ends. And I just feel like, depending on your league, there's a good opportunity to go out and acquire Zach Ertz, because for those fantasy managers and a lot of the rosters I've seen you guys send me, Zach Ertz is the veteran player who's dealt with injury throughout his career. So overall, I just have a feeling, it depends on your personal league, right? But I just have a feeling that Zach Ertz is attainable right now. But really, when you look at your top 5 tight ends, if it's not Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, I feel like all the other tight ends are pretty attainable. So if you're struggling at the position, if Kyle Pitts is your tight end 1, if George Kittle is your tight end 1, if Dalton Schultz is your tight end 1, go fishing, go see if you can put together a trade package and acquire Zach Ertz, because in my opinion, as long as he's healthy, he's going to continue to be very consistent on the season. All right, let's talk about Dak Prescott. We don't exactly know when Prescott's going to make his return. It could technically be here in week 5, but I think it's more likely that he comes back in week 6 against Philadelphia or week 7 against Detroit. A lot of fantasy managers who drafted Dak Prescott have already acquired another starter on their roster who they're used to starting at this point in the season. It might be Jared Goff, it might be Trevor Lawrence. They may have traded and got another quarterback, maybe Stafford or Carr got dropped, and they may not care about Dak Prescott as much, especially if Prescott does not play in week 5. He's kind of an afterthought and probably a little bit annoying, because in a majority of fantasy leagues, you can't put Dak Prescott on your IR spots. So I think a lot of fantasy managers who own Dak Prescott are willing to move on from him, especially if you're able to offer a quarterback like a Kirk Cousins, a Derek Carr, a Matthew Stafford, who haven't been performing at a high level overall. Prescott was your quarterback 8 in fantasy football last year. Week 6 is a tough matchup overall against Philadelphia, but let's say he comes back in week 7, he gets Detroit, who are giving up a ton of points, and he gets Chicago in week 8. Those are 2 very solid matchups. I think it's a really good time to go out and acquire Dak Prescott while you can, because I do think, as well as Cooper Rush has played, in the absence of Dak Prescott, the Cowboys are going to move forward 100% with Dak Prescott, and with the likes of CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, Pollard, and Zeke, and even Dalton Schultz once he's fully healthy as well. Even if the offensive line is bad, this defense is phenomenal. So I really see a world where Dak Prescott gets back to a top 10 quarterback range in fantasy football. And I think we're nearing the point where it's going to be too late to try and trade for Dak Prescott at such a cheap price. So I think right now is the perfect time to add Prescott to your roster, especially if you're hurting at the quarterback position. And that'll do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button. Of course, if you're new to the channel, it really does help us out when you guys hit that like and consider subscribing. And feel free to drop any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to the 2022 fantasy football season down below. Ads, drops, the waiver wire, trade, starts, sits, quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, receivers, kickers, defense, whatever it may be. Let me know in the comments down below. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Be sure to check out all of our links down below as well, and look out for our next live stream for some live fantasy Q&A. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and remember, you guys saw it here on The Catch.